For years, Hudson and Rex was one of those rare shows that seemed almost unstoppable. It built a loyal audience, developed a strong identity, and became a favorite among viewers who loved its mix of mystery, action, and heartwarming moments. Week after week, fans tuned in because they knew exactly what they were getting: a dependable partnership, engaging investigations, and characters they genuinely cared about. But now, everything feels different. As discussions about Season 9 continue across social media, fan forums, and entertainment websites, one thing becomes clear almost immediately. The excitement that once surrounded the show has been replaced by uncertainty. Instead of asking what cases Charlie and Rex will solve next, many fans are asking whether they'll even get another season at all. That shift in conversation is significant because it shows how dramatically things have changed over a very short period of time. The biggest concern revolves around the lack of official information. Normally, when a successful series is preparing to return, fans are given something to look forward to. Maybe it's a teaser trailer. Maybe it's behind-the-scenes photos. Sometimes it's simply a confirmation that everything is moving according to plan. But with Hudson and Rex Season 9, the silence has become impossible to ignore. Every week that passes without news only creates more speculation, and speculation often leads to fear. What's particularly interesting is how quickly this concern has spread throughout the fan community. At first, many viewers assumed the lack of updates was completely normal. Production schedules change all the time. Networks delay announcements. Sometimes projects simply take longer than expected. But as months passed, that confidence slowly started to disappear. Fans who were once optimistic began asking difficult questions. Why is there still no clear update? Why aren't the people involved talking about the future of the show? And most importantly, what exactly is happening behind closed doors? Those questions have become even more important because Hudson and Rex isn't facing ordinary challenges. The show has already experienced one of the most turbulent periods in its history. Major cast changes, fan backlash, and ongoing debates about creative decisions have created an atmosphere that feels very different from previous seasons. For some viewers, the damage was immediate. For others, it happened gradually. But regardless of when it happened, many fans agree that something changed, and they haven't fully recovered from it. Now imagine being a longtime viewer who has invested years into following these characters. You've supported the show through every twist and turn. You've celebrated its successes and defended it during difficult moments. Then suddenly, instead of excitement about the future, you're left staring at silence. No explanations, no reassurances, just rumors, theories, and growing concern. It's easy to see why so many fans are beginning to fear the worst. And that's where the situation becomes even more complicated. Because the longer this uncertainty continues, the harder it becomes to separate fact from speculation. Every small detail gets analyzed. Every social media post becomes a potential clue. Every delay sparks another wave of concern. What might have started as simple questions is now turning into something much larger. Some fans believe the network is carefully planning the show's future before making any announcements. Others think executives are struggling to figure out how to move forward after the backlash surrounding recent changes. And then there are those who fear the possibility that Hudson and Rex may never fully recover from the challenges it's currently facing. Right now, nobody outside the production team knows exactly what's happening, but one thing is becoming impossible to deny. The uncertainty surrounding Season 9 has reached a level that fans can no longer ignore. And if answers don't arrive soon, the fear that Hudson and Rex is quietly reaching its end may only continue to grow stronger. But here's where things get even more concerning. Because once we start looking at the timeline of events leading up to this moment, a much bigger picture begins to emerge. And that picture may explain why so many viewers suddenly believe the future of Hudson and Rex is hanging by a thread. Now let's talk about the event that many fans believe changed everything. Because if you trace the current uncertainty surrounding Season 9 back to its starting point, you eventually arrive at one controversy that continues to divide the Hudson and Rex fan base to this day. For years, Charlie Hudson wasn't just the lead character of the show. He was the emotional center of the entire series. His partnership with Rex became the foundation that everything else was built upon. Viewers didn't simply watch the investigations unfold. They watched a friendship grow, evolve, and become one of the most recognizable partnerships on television. That's why when major changes began happening behind the scenes, fans didn't view them as ordinary creative decisions. They viewed them as changes to the very heart of the show itself. The reaction was immediate. Some viewers tried to remain optimistic. They believed the series would find a way to adapt and continue moving forward. After all, television shows evolve all the time. Characters leave, new faces arrive, storylines change. That's part of the industry. But what made this situation different was the emotional connection audiences had developed over so many years. Instead of creating excitement about a new chapter, the changes created uncertainty. Fans weren't asking what exciting adventures were coming next. They were asking why things had happened the way they did. And when audiences begin focusing more on behind-the-scenes decisions than on the actual story, it usually signals a much deeper problem. As discussions spread online, frustration started growing. Comment sections filled with debates. Fan groups became divided. Some defended the show's future and encouraged everyone to give the new direction a chance. Others argued that the series had already lost something essential. The disagreement wasn't simply about one character or one season. It was about identity. People were questioning whether Hudson and Rex could still feel like Hudson and Rex after such major changes. What happened next only added more fuel to the fire. Instead of calming down over time, the conversation continued growing. Every interview, every public statement, and every piece of information that surfaced seemed to generate another wave of discussion. Fans who had watched quietly for years suddenly became vocal. They wanted answers. They wanted transparency. Most importantly, they wanted reassurance that the show they loved still had a clear future ahead. But that reassurance never fully arrived. As Season 8 became the subject of intense scrutiny, many viewers began examining every aspect of the show's performance. Ratings became a topic of discussion. Audience reactions became a topic of discussion. Even casual viewers started noticing the growing tension surrounding the series. What should have been a celebration of another successful season slowly transformed into a debate about the show's long-term survival. And that's where the concerns about Season 9 truly began. Because while fans were already trying to process everything that had happened, they expected the network to provide a clear path forward. They expected announcements. They expected confidence. They expected signs that the people running the show knew exactly where things were heading next. Instead, they encountered something far more unsettling. Silence. At first, the silence didn't seem unusual. Networks often take time before making major announcements. Production schedules can be unpredictable. Delays happen for countless reasons. But as weeks turned into months, that explanation became harder to accept. Fans started noticing that the usual promotional activity wasn't happening. There were fewer updates, fewer official statements, fewer indications that Season 9 was preparing for a major launch. The lack of information created a vacuum, and whenever a vacuum exists, speculation rushes in to fill it. Suddenly, theories began appearing everywhere. Some believed executives were concerned about the backlash from recent seasons. Others suggested that the network was carefully evaluating the show's future before making any commitments. More dramatic theories even claimed that major decisions were being discussed behind closed doors regarding the franchise itself. Whether those theories were true or not almost became irrelevant. The fact that so many people were willing to believe them showed how uncertain the situation had become. And perhaps the most concerning part is that uncertainty tends to create more uncertainty. When fans don't receive answers, they begin searching for clues. Every delay becomes suspicious. Every missing announcement becomes significant. Every quiet week feels like confirmation that something is wrong. That's exactly what appears to be happening now. The fan community isn't just waiting for Season 9 anymore. Many are watching closely for signs of what happens next. They're trying to determine whether the silence is temporary or whether it represents something much bigger. They're looking for evidence that the show still has a strong future ahead or proof that their fears might be justified. And the longer those answers remain hidden, the more nervous the audience becomes. Because if there really is a problem behind the scenes, the next few months could determine the future of the entire franchise. And once we examine the unusual silence coming from the network itself, the situation starts looking even stranger than most fans realize. Now, let's focus on the part of this story that many fans find the hardest to ignore. Because while controversy and backlash have certainly played a role in the growing concern around Hudson and Rex, it's the network's silence that has truly convinced some viewers that something unusual may be happening behind the scenes. Think about it for a moment. When a show is doing well, networks usually want people talking about it. They release teasers, they share cast updates, they build anticipation. Every piece of information becomes part of a larger marketing strategy designed to keep fans excited and engaged. That's how television works. Attention is valuable, and networks normally do everything they can to maintain it. But that's not what many fans feel they're seeing right now. Instead, they're seeing a situation where questions continue to pile up while answers remain frustratingly difficult to find. Every time viewers expect a major update, nothing happens. Every time they expect clarification, more silence follows. And after a while, that silence begins creating its own narrative. The problem is that audiences naturally try to explain uncertainty. When official information is unavailable, people start creating their own explanations. That's exactly why rumors have become such a major part of the Hudson and Rex conversation. Some fans believe the network is simply taking extra time to plan the show's future carefully. Others think executives may be evaluating audience reactions before committing to long-term plans. And then there are those who worry that decision-makers are genuinely concerned about whether the series can recover from the challenges it has faced over the last few years. What makes this situation particularly interesting is that none of those possibilities can be completely dismissed. From a business perspective, networks pay close attention to audience behavior. They monitor ratings, they track engagement, they evaluate public perception. Most importantly, they study trends. If a show's audience begins showing signs of decline, executives want to understand why. They want to know whether the problem is temporary or whether it signals something much more serious. And that's where Hudson and Rex finds itself in a difficult position. Because the show isn't just dealing with ordinary questions about storylines or casting. It's dealing with questions about audience trust. That's a much larger challenge. Trust is one of the most valuable things a long-running television series can have. Fans invest years of their lives into these characters. They become emotionally attached. They celebrate victories. They experience losses. They build routines around watching new episodes. Over time, that connection becomes incredibly powerful. But trust can also be fragile. Once viewers start feeling disconnected from a show's direction, rebuilding that relationship becomes difficult. Even if future episodes are strong, some audience members may already feel emotionally distant from the series. That's why fan reactions matter so much. They don't just influence ratings, they influence momentum. And right now, momentum is exactly what many fans are worried about. The longer uncertainty continues, the more difficult it becomes to generate excitement. Instead of building anticipation for Season 9, discussions often return to the same concerns. What's happening? Why is there still no clear update? Is the future secure, or is something much bigger unfolding behind the scenes? These questions have become impossible to avoid. What's even more surprising is how quickly concern has spread beyond the most dedicated fans. Casual viewers who normally wouldn't pay attention to behind-the-scenes developments are beginning to notice the uncertainty too. When enough people start asking the same questions, those questions naturally become part of the larger conversations surrounding the show. And that's where the situation becomes especially dangerous. Because once uncertainty becomes the dominant narrative, every new delay feels significant. Every quiet period feels meaningful. Even completely normal business decisions can start looking suspicious when viewed through the lens of growing concern. This creates a cycle that's difficult to break. Fans become worried because there are no answers. The lack of answers generates more speculation. The speculation creates more concern. Then that concern fuels even more discussion. Before long, the uncertainty itself becomes one of the biggest stories surrounding the series. That's exactly why so many viewers are paying attention right now. Not because they want the show to fail, not because they've stopped caring, but because they care enough to worry. Many longtime fans desperately want Hudson and Rex to succeed. They want the series to continue. They want the franchise to regain the confidence and excitement that once made it such a reliable success. But wanting something and feeling confident about it are two very different things. And at this moment, confidence appears to be in short supply. The reality is that nobody outside the network truly knows what decisions are being discussed. Nobody knows what conversations are happening behind closed doors. Nobody knows what the long-term strategy looks like. All fans can see is the silence, the uncertainty, and the growing number of questions that remain unanswered. But here's where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. Because while fans continue searching for clues about Season 9's future, some observers believe the biggest challenge facing Hudson and Rex isn't the silence itself. They believe it's what that silence is allowing to happen to the show's reputation. And if that's true, the next decision the network makes could determine whether this franchise survives, or whether fans are witnessing the beginning of the end. Now everything comes down to one final question that fans can no longer ignore. Is Hudson and Rex actually nearing its end? Or is this all just a storm of speculation that has grown far bigger than reality? Because at this point, the situation has gone beyond normal fan concern. It has turned into a full-blown uncertainty surrounding the future of the entire franchise. Season 9 exists, at least according to reports, but the way it exists is what's troubling people the most. No clear promotion, no strong confirmation, no visible excitement building from the network, just silence sitting in the middle of one of the most talked about TV controversies in recent memory. And silence, in television, is never just silence. It creates space. Space for doubt. Space for rumors. Space for fear. That's exactly what has happened here. Fans who once waited for new seasons with excitement are now waiting with hesitation. Every passing week without an update makes the situation feel heavier. It's no longer just about a release date. It's about whether there is even confidence in the show's future from the people who control it. And when confidence disappears, uncertainty takes over completely. Some viewers still believe Season 9 will eventually arrive without major issues. They think the delay is just part of internal decision-making, something temporary that will be resolved with time. They believe the show is simply in a holding pattern, while executives decide how to handle the next phase of its release. But others are not so sure anymore. To them, the silence feels different. It feels intentional, like something is being carefully controlled behind the scenes, like the network is waiting for the right moment, or perhaps avoiding making a decision they know will upset part of the audience no matter what they choose. And this is where things become even more complicated. Because if Season 9 does air exactly as planned, there is still no guarantee of how it will be received. The audience reaction to recent seasons has already shown clear division. Some viewers are willing to continue, others have already emotionally disconnected. That split alone creates a difficult challenge for any network trying to move forward with confidence. But if Season 9 doesn't air at all, or gets quietly delayed without explanation, that creates an entirely different kind of problem. One that could permanently damage trust in the franchise. So the network is stuck in a position where every possible decision carries risk. And while all of this is happening behind closed doors, the audience is left in complete uncertainty. No answers, no direction, just waiting. And waiting is where speculation grows the fastest. Because when people don't know what's coming next, they start preparing for the worst. That's exactly why more and more fans are beginning to fear that Hudson and Rex might already be on its final stretch, even if nothing official has been said. What makes this situation even more intense is that the conversation is no longer just about the show itself. It's about what the show represents. A long-running series, a loyal audience, a familiar world that fans have returned to for years. Losing that doesn't feel like just another cancellation. It feels like the end of something bigger. And that emotional weight is exactly why the reactions online have become so strong. Every post, every comment, every rumor, it all adds another layer to the same question. Is this really the beginning of the end? Or just a misunderstood pause before something new is revealed? Right now, there is no confirmed answer. Only patterns, only silence, only speculation filling the gaps where official information should be. But one thing is becoming harder to deny with every passing day. A show like Hudson and Rex doesn't reach this level of uncertainty without reason. Something is happening behind the scenes, whether the public sees it yet or not. And until that truth finally comes out, fans are left in the most uncomfortable position of all, not knowing whether to wait for